Shalom, ladies. Welcome to Coffee and Connection week 55. I am coming from a wedding of a dear, dear friend of mine, Baruch Hashem, who just got married tonight. And as I was there, I was talking to a woman that I know, and her husband came by, and he goes, "Sometimes I come home and I see my wife listening to you're on the computer, and it's like tea and something." I'm like, "Oh yeah, Coffee and Connection. I had to get home in time for it." So Baruch Hashem. I made it home, got to dance with her, got a bracha. Baruch Hashem, so so beautiful. And it's such a I'm really excited to talk about today's topic because it's one of those things that I know I might probably say this about a lot of stuff, but I'm really passionate about this topic because it really is all about, you know, setting our intention and being very clear on who we want to be, right? Because that is everything is going to come after that. Hakol holech achrei harosh. Everything goes after our intention. What is important to us, and who we is going to determine who we want to be, is going to determine our actions, our feelings, our thoughts, what we're working on, what we, as we talked about last week, what we're going to, what's the word, like put first, prioritize, right? That's all going to be based on what's important to us. But sometimes we don't know what's important to us. We don't know where we're off in alignment. And it's like, well, get aligned with where we want to be. You may feel like, I don't even know what that is. Hold on a second. I'm just going to keep the lines muted. Um, Okay, so it's really powerful. Sorry, Share. I'm just gonna allow you to be a co-host just in case I need you to be able to unmute. Okay, so now you can unmute if you need to. So it's really, really powerful to ask these questions. And if you're feeling a little bit like, why don't I know what I want? Why don't I know what's important to me? Why don't I know like where I feel off of alignment? How do I know what's important to me? Don't worry, you are so not alone. It is so common, as you see by the women who have made the effort to come on here live. And it is so common that very often, if you've ever been on a call with me, you'll know that one of the first things I ask anytime I speak to somebody is, what is it that you want? What is your vision of like a good, what is it that you'd like your relationship to look like in a year from now? Which is basically saying, what is it that you want that you don't have? What's important to you? What do you value? And so, so often, like I almost expect it, women's answers are, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know what I want. And it's just so normal, it's so common, because we spend so much time thinking about, what we need to do, thinking about what everybody else needs, thinking about, this, like, what the community expects from us, what our family expects from us, what our husband expects from us, what our children expect from us, that to take that time to ask ourselves, well, what do I want? I don't know. Like, when was the last time I thought about that? And so I really want to discuss a few different ways that you can start to bring some awareness to what it is that you want. Okay. What is important to you? Because you may think you don't know, but what I want to show you is that you do know. You really do know. You just don't realize that some of these things, like that you experience on a regular basis, is what's going to be pointing you to what's important to you, what you want to do, what you want to work on, what you value in your life. So we're going to talk about, I think we'll do like three different things, although there's more. There's so many more. Three different things that you can look at to help you figure out what's really what we would call in integrity for you. What's really important for you? What is it that where if you feel off from this, you're out, you could say you're out of alignment from where you want to be. So the first one is, there's so many. Which one do I want to choose? One of the most important ones is looking at what are you most frustrated is missing in your life, right? What are you most frustrated isn't in your relationship with your husband? What are you most frustrated isn't in your relationship with your kids? What are you most frustrated that you don't get to experience in your life? If it bothers you so much that you're not experiencing that, if it bothers you so much that that's not present in your relationship, then that is an indication that that is important to you. that that is a priority to you, that that is something that you value. And that means that being in alignment with yourself would mean to make sure that you are creating that aspect within yourself. So, if, for example, it makes you crazy that um, your husband is very negative, or if it makes you crazy that your husband isn't, speaking to the kids in a certain way, or it makes you crazy that he's not, or him or your kids or someone is not as spiritually connected as you'd like them to be, that means that that's a topic that really is important to you. And instead of looking at him and how he's not aligned, or your kids and how they're not aligned, or the world or the community, I invite you to ask yourself, where can I get more focused on that topic, right? This must be important to me. Let me make sure that I am in full alignment with how important it is to me. Okay? So that's the first thing, is really looking at what's your biggest struggle. And I really believe that whenever we feel like frustrated and stuck because something's not the way we want it, we have the power to bring that to our lives when we decide, I'm going to bring that instead of waiting for someone else to. And if you feel like, I already do, I already am, then that's where you might want to look for, like, where can I do it even a little bit more? Where can I really make sure I'm in alignment with what matters to me? That's the first one. So it's looking at, what are you really passionate about, like in the negative way? You're passionate that it's not in your life, to allow that to guide you as to what is important to you. The second one, I mean, we could talk about, what are you passionate about? That's kind of like people might say, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. So let's use some other questions to help you recognize, like, again, what do you want to be passionate about? And a few really good questions that I think are really helpful is, like, what is it that when you are engaged in it, right? When you're like thinking about it or acting on it or helping someone with it, you lose track of time. You forget to eat. You forget to sleep. You forget that, like, you have to pick someone up from school. Like, you're so focused. You're so in it. You're so dedicated. You're so passionate that, like, the world could pass you by and you don't even notice because you're so there, right? You're so just you just love it. You could do it all the time, all day, all night. And we all need breaks sometimes and we all need to recharge, but you could just, you could just you lose track. You lose track of time because it's so important to you, right? Um, that's a really good one, because that helps you figure out, like, what is it that really gets me going? What is it that really inspires me? What is it that is really important to me? Whether that's, well, when I'm like talking to my friends, which means that, like, connection's really important to me, taking care of myself is important to me, connecting, did I say that already? Connecting with people is important to me. It could be when you're doing your work. Maybe you really love your work and you want to make sure that you are getting, that you're getting it done in a way that you feel good about it. Maybe it's when you're spending time with your kids, or maybe it's when you're cooking, or maybe it's when you're reading a book, or maybe it's, I mean, I know that for me, one of the biggest things in my life, I'm going to get to someone said, what if I like shopping? I love that. What if it's shopping? So ask yourself, what does that mean about you? Like, what is it about shopping that you love? Maybe you love things feeling new and fresh. And I remember once learning from, I think it was, yeah, Rebbetzin Mizrahi, who said that women love shopping. It's part of our feminine energy that loves things like new and fresh and like it's exciting for us. I was like, oh, that's why I just love shopping. I just love buying something new. Like, there's something so exciting about it when you have like a new thing, even if it's like a new pair of tights. You're like, I love putting on a new pair of tights. Like, just right? It just feels so good to put on a new pair of tights. I don't know. Going started on my tights ever since COVID. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna put tights back on. Like, I got so used to not wearing tights. So after that, I was like, no more cheap tights for me. No way. I'm going into the like Cadillac tights, like the expensive, good quality, because I could not stand. And Baruch Hashem, my husband was like, "You deserve it. You get yourself good tights." So Baruch Hashem, I didn't have to go back to those like cheapy Osherad tights. Not that there's anything wrong with them; they're amazing. They did the job for many years. I was very happy to be able to get them, but I was like, after like a year of not wearing them, I'm like, I am not. I cannot put those things back on my legs. Okay. Anyways, back to right? We love new things and it's a very feminine thing. So, oh, I guess maybe my femininity is important to me, or maybe I really love taking care, knowing that I have the things that I need, and like maybe my self care, or maybe it's about taking care of my family. It could be so many different things. You got to ask yourself, like, what is it, right? Is it that empowerment of saying, I can make this choice. I can buy something. I matter to get the things that I need. Sometimes that feeling of like being shopping and, I don't know, holding a coffee or whatever, it just feels very like feminine and empowering and mature and like, yes, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually an adult. Like, I can take care of things that need to get taken care of, right? So that can be a great thing to realize, like, oh, I want to get aligned with that. I want to make sure that I'm, really actualizing that side of myself that has the opportunity to do things like that, instead of saying, oh, I'll take care of it later, and just staying in your pajamas all day. Maybe there's a part of you that's like, I want to get out, I want to do things, I want to be productive. So you want to look at what is it for you. I know for me, my whole life, people made fun of me and for the fact that I was always reading. I mean, my friends in when I was in like 10 and like younger and older, people they used to call me books, okay? Because I was always reading. Like my friends would be over and I'd be like sitting with a book because I just loved reading. And my parents would like, come in and yell at me like 3 hours after I was supposed to be in bed because like my light was on and I was reading, right? So I always loved reading, and Baruch Hashem, to this day, I still love reading. And sometimes I get out of alignment with that because now I love reading nonfiction. I love reading about relationships and coaching and different, anything for personal development. And sometimes I forget how much I love reading. It's so much easier to just, watch something on my phone when I need to relax, or to just like I don't know, scroll, or just and none of that is actually productive, and none of that is what I actually want to do. And I have to remind myself, and every I try to get back in alignment with that. Wait, you love reading. I just ordered a ton of new books. They're sitting here. I'm so excited to read them, and like put myself back in that alignment of like, I love reading. And I don't just love reading, but that's really like giving me so much growth and so much ability to like help others. So by getting back aligned with the fact that I could read all night and like literally and not go to sleep helps me get aligned with like the fact that I love reading. I know that I can use that to align myself with my goals of like using my time wisely and helping people. And those are all things that I'm passionate about. So it helps me to get in touch with those passions. And then the third one that I want to share with you, this one is a little bit more, I would say, probably very vulnerable for us. The first one is the one where we have to really give ourselves a little bit of like a kick in our own tuchus, like not saying we're responsible for the issues, not saying we're to blame, but to say, wow, where's my piece of empowerment in here? What can I do? The second one is kind of fun. Like it allows us to really ask ourselves, like, what do I really love to do? What can I stay up all night doing? What do I, what is it that really gets me going and inspires me? The third one is the one that kind of takes us out of our comfort zone. And I was just on today earlier, I was on a mastery call with my clients, and we were talking about this topic, how we can be really frustrated with ourselves when we're struggling with a story, when we're struggling with something that we're dealing with. And we can be really frustrated with our husbands when they're struggling with their stuff. And we talked about how powerful it is to recognize that we're all struggling with something. And instead of being frustrated, with our husbands, let's say, when they're struggling with their stuff, even though how they act when they're struggling with their stuff might not be okay, there's also the recognition of it. It's okay to be struggling with your stuff because we all struggle with our stuff. It's part of why we're here. So, actually, one of the great ways to look at like what is important to me and where does my integrity lie, and what work can I do on myself, or where do I want to grow, is looking at what do I most struggle with, what's really hard for me personally, because those are the kind of things that we might want to say, well, I really struggle with that, so I'm just not going to do it. I really struggle with it, so like sweep it under the rug, let's not deal with it. I guess that is not meant to be something that I do in my life. And what if we realize that, like, no, all of our struggles are here for us to grow from, for us to overcome, for us to use in our tikkun, like to fix ourselves and work on ourselves. Not that we're bad, but to like, get to like our higher place. It's amazing what we can accomplish, what we can then realize. The other day, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we had a really nice conversation because we're both like heavy duty introverts who are kind of in these like very, much more like a public kind of role where we're like talking to people and everything. And I had to do a lot of work on myself to be able to do this with all of you, to be able to talk to all of you, to be able to, my my husband still kind of gives me a bit of like jokes with me about the fact that for years, and I probably still sometimes have it too, my biggest fear was calling people I didn't know on the phone. Like I literally do that now, like all day. Just call people that either I didn't know or I may not even have ever met them, even though they're like, the people I love so much in this world. And like it's crazy to think, if I had said to myself, I'm an introvert, I'm not going to speak to people, I'm not going to do videos, I'm not just coming on here and saying let's talk about something, let's do open Q&A. If I had said I don't call people I don't know, I don't call people I don't feel comfortable with, then I wouldn't be able to be living my passion, which is to help all of you in this way. So I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, like, and I still have to do this, right? Are you, where do you struggle? What's hard for you? What scares you? And ask yourself, how can I like, where would overcoming that be useful? Right? Like, how can I scare myself even more? Like, in that way. Like, I'm not saying do it right this moment. I'm saying, like, consider that as like an indication as to how you could figure out, like, where the moving forward may lie, right? The fact that you are terrified of, I don't know, public speaking might mean that, like, wow, how can I grow in that area? Maybe there's a place that I can do some speaking. Maybe there's a share I can give. Maybe in my job I can volunteer to speak. Because when we overcome our fears, we are really actualizing our potential. We are really growing. And as scary as it is, it also feels absolutely amazing when we can overcome those things that always felt like challenges, when we can overcome those things that always felt like walls, getting in the way of the things that we wanted to do. And now we feel the fear and we do it anyways. It's just this amazing empowering feeling of like, I don't have to be held back by my fears. And so our fears can also, like, can, not only do we get to overcome them, which can, again, like, on its own feels amazing, right? We can also use them to help us figure out, what am I passionate about, how can I use that in this world, right? How can I use that to, where am I out of alignment because I'm letting my fear get in the way, right? So if, let's say, you have a fear of being alone, you have a fear of, then how are you maybe then, that fear causing you to be controlling, or that fear causes you to fight with your husband, and or just feel like you're lost, feel like unloved, right? And if by working on that fear, not only are you going to have that empowering feeling of, I worked on my fear and I feel, and I, wow, like I'm okay, no one, like my husband's not home and I'm okay, but you also are going to be working on your relationship in a really powerful way, where you're going to work through those stories that, where you tell yourself, oh, I'm not loved because my husband's not here means he doesn't love me, or you're going to work through those fears of, something's get like you're going to work on the challenges of like your worst, the worst stories in your head. You're going to work through so much in your relationship itself. So it not like, you hear what I'm saying, like you're really going to help align yourself not just with your true self who doesn't want to be dealing with those fears, and those fears are probably getting in the way of who you really want to be and how you want to interact, but it also points you to where you can like align yourself more with the reality of where you want to be in your life and what's important to you and what you want to, put some effort into, where you want to put some energy, right? So those are just three. I have so many, because again, we have to know what's important to us in order to be the women that we want to be, right? It's so easy to get caught up in our fears. It's so easy to just play it safe. It's so easy to tell ourselves that our, not now to our desires or to our passions. It's so easy to say, I'm waiting for you to change this. It's so easy to say, well, you know what? You're not going to read now when you have little kids at home. Like, just don't even think about that. Or, let me see how I can get out of having to deal with my fears. There's there's so many, like, we can avoid all of that stuff, but then we don't get that, we don't have that clarity. We don't have like it's not necessarily easy, but the simple path laid out for us of like, oh, this is the work that I want to do. This is what I want to work on. This is how I can move forward, right? And sometimes when we can when we no when we ask ourselves these questions, we can get really clear on like, what am I dedicated to? What is it that I want to work on right now? Where is it that I want to move forward? And sometimes it could be that the thing you want to work on is your relationship. It could be it's organizing your room. It could be it's working on a relationship with a kid. It could be it's exercise or healthy eating. It could be that it's taking time to speak to your friends. It could be that it's, making sure that you're being emotionally connected to your husband or physically connected to your husband. It could be making sure that you wash the dishes every night. It could be anything, right? It could be taking a step forward in your career. There's so many ways that we can move forward in our lives, but we can be very stuck if we're not clear on what we're passionate about and where we're out of alignment with where we want to be. And I'll just finish off with this one thought that it's very easy to just say these things, it doesn't really matter. I think about this all the time around weddings. It's really weddings that I think about this because I remember, I stayed in Israel basically from the time that I went to seminary, and I missed a lot of weddings. Like I missed a lot of my friends' weddings. Thank God I was able to be at my very good friends' weddings, and I was able to be at a lot of family weddings. I still missed a lot of stuff. I missed like good friends' weddings. I missed, births and just so many experiences. And I remember when one of my really good friends. Like I wasn't going to fly in for her wedding, but I really, really wanted to be there. She was such a just an important person in my life who I had, been friends with for a really long time. And she got married, and I remember the night of her wedding just thinking to myself like, so it's okay. Okay, so she's getting married now and I'm not there, but like it's okay. It's really okay. Like what? It's not like I'm sitting here crying. Like it's okay. So I'm not there. And like really like felt like okay. And then I was like, wait a second. I could take that perspective of like it's okay to like such a like how far do you take that? How far do you take that? Because I could say it's always okay. So I'll miss, my cousin who I grew up with. I'll miss her wedding, and I'll miss my best friend's wedding, and I could miss someone else's wedding. Like none of that matters. Like yeah, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. You like I'll survive. I'm not gonna like cry my eyes out. I'm gonna be okay. But but there's something that comes from going to that wedding. There's something that comes from being at a wedding. That's where like that's connection. That's what, like, so much of life is about, those experiences of being together with people at a simcha, being with them at these important things in their lives, connecting, like being a part of life. So we could say, so what? Okay, so I won't get aligned. Okay, so it's just like, it's not such a big deal. So I won't think about what I want this year. I'll do it another year, a different month, a different week, a different day, a different decade. Like, what's the big deal? And I really believe that, like, it's the leap years that teach us that it's not it it does matter. It does matter, because we could say it's okay, but every year, it's okay. Suddenly, like, those 11 days start adding up, and they add up, and they add up, and they add up. And, like, I live in Israel. I know when Ramadan is. It's a different time, right? Because the Arabs, like, don't do this. Ramadan's a different time of year every few years. It can be in the summer, it can be in the winter. Who knows when it is? Because they don't align this way. And we can suddenly, okay, I know they have to do this in, like, Australia, but, like, in South Africa, but, like, we could suddenly have, like, Hanukkah in the summer and Pesach in the winter, which is like, what? Like, okay, sometimes it's in Canada, it's freezing cold Pesach time and it's snowing on Sukkot. So I've experienced that before. But, like, that's not how it's meant to be. That's not what life is meant to be. That's not what our calendar is meant to be. Our life is meant to be aligned, right? Our life is meant to be aligned with what's important to us, with our goals, with our integrity. And that's what we get to do. We get to say, you know what? It does matter. What I am passionate about, what I want, it matters, because you matter, and what you're passionate about matters. And I just want you to give yourself permission to be passionate about getting aligned with what it is that you want, and getting clear on what it is that you want, and taking whatever steps you need to take to align yourself with your goals and with your values and in your integrity, and get the get aligned now. Don't wait another year, another month, another decade, because yeah, it's okay. It could pass us by. But when we know, when we're not going up, we're going down. It's not just okay. There's something we lose. There's something that gets more out of alignment every time we don't ask ourselves these questions, every time we don't prioritize what's important to us. And when we stay stuck, we just get more and more out of alignment. So, yeah, I'd love, to hear from you which of these three you're going to ask yourself, what really resonates with you, what comes up for you, what steps you're going to take. And it's I really am just so excited to keep having these extra weeks before we have to think about Purim, before we have to think about Pesach. I love the holidays. I do. I love them. And there's a lot that goes into them. And I'm really dedicated for all of us making the most of the next, we still have three more weeks, like, at least, which means, like, we have, like, what is it, 5 weeks until Purim. There's still so much time. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time to be able to make the most, and move forward and work on things, and create shifts. It really, really is. So thank you for being here. I'm not seeing any questions or comments in the chat this week, but it really is a pleasure to be here with all of you. I just found out that the absolutely intimate masterclass was left up accidentally for a few extra days. So I hope some of you, anyone who took advantage of that, I hope that you were able to listen to some more of the lessons, and allow that to really make a difference for you. And of course, the Absolutely Intimate coaching program is starting, really kicking off with module 1 this week, which I'm so excited about. And again, in the spirit of Adar, I'm keeping registration open for another few days. So if anyone's interested, go ahead and drop me a line. Send me or Shira an email. Let us know if you have any questions. I will close it again on Wednesday just because we're going into module 1, and it's so cool. We're recording it live. I don't think we're ever going to do this again. It's going to become a pre-recorded program. But this time we're doing it live, which means that you all get to partner with me and, please God, all the women in the future that will be using these modules to be able to really, as we said, align themselves with the relationship they want to have, the woman they want to be, the family they want to have, the culture they want to create in their home. And if you would like to do that, if you want to be a part of it, let us know. Reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and get you started. And you can really get started right away because we already had our, first steps call, which was we really talked very powerfully about how to create new habits and how to set yourself up for success to make sure that like the next 5 weeks are just life changing, game changing, relationship changing. And I'm really excited to see all of you who are in the program on that call, and if anyone would like to join. So please let us know. And wishing you all an amazing day, an amazing month. Really, I encourage you to make the most of this time. One thing I'll just say is my husband keeps saying, like, said to me at one point, he's like, yeah, but people still have to do their day to day every day. This isn't really extra time. And I was like, no, but it is, because we don't have to start thinking about Purim and Pesach, and we'll always have all that stuff. We're always going to have that. No, I don't talk to anyone, no matter what stage of life they're in, whether they're single, newly married, one baby, 10 kids, grandchildren, no one's in the house, empty nesters. Nobody says, I have tons of free time. I don't even know what to do with myself. I've never heard that. Everyone is like, I'm so busy. I can't get in my self care. It's hard for me to work on my relationship. It's hard for me to know where to put my energy. Everyone, every single woman, it is never the perfect time. Don't make perfect the enemy of done, right? It's never the perfect time. It's just the right time. So if now feels like the right time, we'd love to have you there. So I'm wishing you all an amazing day. And until next time, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.